Julius Malema was used as an example of what would happen if a black conscious person who has influence was challenging white supremacy. If someone who is politically radical and pro-black is trying to push black consciousness, African independence, and uplifts the masses, they are quickly treated as a threat, especially in this country. And figures like him who are either silenced or sentenced, that is not justice. It is being selective. Because there are people in power who commit far worse crimes, but yet to this day, they still go unpunished. Like money laundering, for example, fraud, or stealing millions every single day, leaving South Africans scavenging just for them to survive. And that type of corruption is not random. It is deliberate, because leaving Africa weak and economically unstable benefits those who are in power and maintains Western influence. This leaves us vulnerable, and that vulnerability is exactly what they take advantage of. And in that sense, corruption isn't just destroying our economies, but it's also slowing down our independence. And yet the same system that tolerates massive theft is now quick to criminalize those who challenge it and try to awaken political consciousness. When a black political voice becomes too influential and challenges white authority, they are quickly framed as a threat to justify silencing them. And that is exactly what's happening with Malema right now. They get pulled into controversies around ideas like the white genocide or instability, not just as individuals, but as tools to delegitimize black political consciousness and protect existing power structures.
Imagine getting sentenced to 5 years in prison by a settler in your own country for shooting a gun in the sky. Not at someone, in the sky, bro. I don't know who came up with that law. It's probably a settler, bro. This is crazy. You know me, if I was in his shoes, I mean, he's appealing it, but if I was in his shoes, bro, I'm not going out like that. I'm sorry, bro. Fuck no. Being sentenced by a colonizer in my own country, bro. Oh my days. I don't know what I would do, but I am definitely not going down like that, bro.
Julius Malema being sentenced to prison time is a scheme that Todd set up, and if you don't understand that reference, then you're not necessarily as woke as you think you are. I truly believe that everybody is not above the law. Yes, that's the truth. No one is above the law. Two other creators on here who have spoken about the fact that what is happening to Juju is a lack of black consciousness and a lack of political consciousness. Because why is it that as a country, South Africa is always so divided by Julius Malema? He is the most divisive politician in the country. You look at the population of South Africa, you think, why would this be a divisive individual? Who and why would he be a person that is running such a wedge against the society? There's only one answer. Maybe you are above the law if you're white. Maybe in South Africa, you are above the law if you have enough money. If you have the right people lobbying for you and with you. You're a likable black, you're a plausible black, you're a black who only really fights against black people. You never really touch the white issues, you never really touch the race issues, so you're a good black, okay? That's why you will never be charged or tried the way Malema has been charged or tried. I'm not saying that firearm control is not important in the country, it's very important. I just don't think the crime matches the sentence. Watch the space, because they're trying to do something. I'm talking about white and black people alike.
Call for everybody. If this young boy, Mr. Malema, is not jailed by this judge, it's going to cause a big rise up in South Africa. Malema and all these people are threatening for that they will start one or other march and jump and power to keep him out of jail. Come, I tell you one thing. If this judge and our South African law allows that a little lighty like Malema is above the law and not be jailed because he's pulled off the trigger of a gun inside the stadium, is going to cause havoc in the whole country. Everybody's going to think they have carte blanche and they call it a toy gun. He's a toy. I'm telling you today, he's a toy. if they want people to rise, the whole of South Africa will rise. Every man that's got a gun that will rise, because that's lawful with a gun, will rise. And we will stop the EFF. This at the EFF, if they don't get their way and they don't get their stuff, they want to throw the toys out of the cot, and they want to destroy this beautiful country, then we will destroy them.
Calling a grown black man a boy while preaching law and order tells us everything we need to know. That kind of language, plus the swart gevaar panic and rise up threats, is exactly why the EFF should exist. People with these views show that they don't believe that all people are equal or are entitled to dignity. Let's be clear. Julius Malema wasn't let off. He was granted leave to appeal, a standard legal process, and that's how the rule of law works. You don't get to claim you support the law while calling for violence, threatening to destroy a political party, blaming one person for crime across the country. You're not calling for accountability, you're inciting violence. And if the law only matters when it goes your way, then it's not the law you care about, it's control.
Good day to you. This is a message to all South Africans, in particular, Julius Malema's supporters. I stand with Julius Malema. This is a politically motivated sentencing. A politically motivated sentencing. And this is a tragedy to South African democracy. I urge Ramaphosa, His Excellency, to intervene and pardon Malema. You cannot silence the voice of Africa. You cannot silence the voice of South African youths. It is diabolical, ridiculous that a white justice system prosecutes and sentences a black man. We are watching very closely. We are watching very, very closely. Thank you very much for this information.
Hey, Tada Mzansi. So Julius Malema was in court today, and Judge Olivier sent him to 5 years in prison plus 2. But here's the thing. Julius Malema's legal team fought back, and they got him out, that he's not being incarcerated right now or locked up right now. He's going home. They had a plan. Julius Malema, after the court proceedings, went onto a stage, one of the best speeches I've ever heard. Listen, I don't care if you like him or not. One of the best speeches I've ever heard. But anyway, he explained to us and pointed out all the holes in this whole court proceedings. And he says that Judge Olivier is actually a person that can't read. She didn't read the court proceedings or the arguments, the heads of arguments. And in the speech, he explained how they planned for this whole thing. The deputy president of the EFF was already in Grahamstown with paperwork for if they want to lock him up. They had a helicopter ready to fly the legal team up to Grahamstown. This whole thing was just a proof that Julius Malema planned for things. He's actually a smart person. Again, I don't care whether you like him or not. But the truth is the truth. This man plans. He's actually a great leader. And he showed strength. Even in the court proceedings at the end, when the judge told him he can leave, he actually said, okay, bye-bye, in a very friendly way. That's classic Julius Malema. Listen, for all the EFF supporters out there, I feel sorry for you guys about the sentence. But Julius says he's going to win this thing. He's going to reduce the sentence, because you need to understand it's all about his political career. He don't care about, he's not afraid of going to jail, but he needs to fight for his political career. According to him, he thinks he's going to even get the verdict, the guilty verdict squashed. Let's see what happens. All I'm telling you guys, for all the EFF supporters out there, I'm sorry for what happened today. For the people that's rejoicing, I understand you too. You guys know me, I'm a one love type of guy, so the only thing I have to say is, Atina nonglaba, Atina nonglaba. See you next time, bye.
So Julius Malema explained to members of the Economic Freedom Fighters that the EFF was more than ready to ensure that Julius Malema doesn't sleep in prison. So it was said that they thought the judge and the prosecutors, they are planning for Julius Malema to sleep in prison. So at that particular time, Godrich Kadi, the deputy president of the Economic Freedom Fighters, who is already an admitted attorney to the High Court, was already in the High Court meeting with at 3. They are hearing the bail application of Julius Malema. And there was already a plane that was prepared to take the legal counsel of Julius Malema from Ekompo to the site of the High Court of the Eastern Cape. This man strategized everything, even if they came in which direction. He was more than prepared for them. You can see it's someone who knew that I'm not fighting an ordinary being here. There is a hand behind whatever that is happening. That is why I need to be extra careful and I need to fight intellectually so. So I guys, go be. I said this thing and I'm saying it again. This is the beginning of the real legal war. You will see the legal war. Now it's going to be the legal gurus of this country contesting each other. I can't.
No one is above the law is a common statement that I'm seeing from Black South Africans in all these comment sections at the sentencing of Julius Malema. No one is above the law, they say, Black South Africans. And I want to ask those Black South Africans, what do you mean by that? What do you mean no one is above the law? Yes, he brandished a weapon in a crowd, shot it in the air. And yes, any of those bullets could have dropped down and hit somebody and somebody could have passed away. However, that did not happen. Okay? The reason this statement is really bothersome to me is that I don't know why us Black people, us Africans, we are hardest on our own people. But we never have the same smoke for the other people. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Let me make an example for you. When Nelson Mandela became president, was about to become president, right? Transitioning from an apartheid state into a free South Africa, right? Nelson Mandela gave apartheid politicians, leaders, racists 4 years to sort their business and collect their monies and do whatever they need to do untouched. They were given 4 years to wrap up their finances. And of course, in 4 years, a lot of bullshit and nonsense and laundering and money being switched back and forth, draining the country even worse and even more. No one is above the law. So the same people that were oppressing you got 4 years to sort out their finances. This video is not about this video is not about Julius Malema. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. Today I'm going to tell you who is above the law. Today I'm going to tell you who is so above the law that you, as a Black South African, actually feel inferior to them. Whether you understand it or whether you don't understand it. I want to explain it to you now. So we're going to start with the, wait, before I get any further. My name is Nita. I'm an anthropology student. I'm also a historian, okay? What we are planning and the discussions we have in this content is re-evaluating African history, African philosophy, world history, global philosophy through the eyes of Africans. I think it's fair. I think that's fair because we've been living in a world that's not created by us and we are always told to follow and respect certain types of groups of people, okay? So to the Black South Africans who say that no one is above the law, I need them to explain something to me. But first, let me start by saying, do you know that nobody cares about your Black history? Do you know that each race that is not us literally looks at us and sees us as things that were meant to be enslaved? They don't see nothing wrong with it, and they will tell you too. They will tell you, hey, that's just how things were back in the day. You need to move on. Oh, we need to move on, okay? The first biggest culprit in history is the people that come from World War II, when that man with the mustache was unaliving them over there. I want you to understand how those people who are now moved to Israel sit here and shove it in your face and down your throat that if you were to ever mention any other type of genocide, matter of fact, no other Holocaust exists except for theirs, right? Of all the tragedies in the world, including how we were murdered by Arabs in that Arabization takeover in North Africa, right? Including the West Transatlantic slave trade, including the East Dutch India Company from that India side all the way, it even made it to the Americas, stopping by in South Africa. Those are real parts of history. Those are people that hurt. But the world that you live in, that world that you say no one is above the law, I'm about to show you how some people are above the law, okay? By now we are all aware that when we talk about the Holocaust, right, it only refers to what happened in World War II in Germany, okay? No one else is allowed to use that word. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? No matter what type of history you bring up, because in the world that we live in today, no one has suffered more than the Jewish people. And that's how they've trained you. The only way to get out of this is to understand that the world that you live in is designed for people who are not you. So why are you here participating in this system and acting like if a black person does it, oh my God, no one is above the law? In America, they voted that old man over there, knowing that he's a rapist, knowing that he runs business down and he files bankruptcies, knowing that he falsified his education, knowing that he went after black people that were renting in certain places and kicked them out, knowing that he let a black woman die in a hospital, right? They voted for him. Do you know why? Because they wanted that thing that they will never tell you. Because they knew that anything that old white man in America does, it was never going to affect them. So as long as it wasn't going to affect them, they're like, fuck it. Right? We'll vote him in. How do we know? Because now they're acting like they didn't see it coming. What do you mean you didn't see it coming? Let me tell you something about history, okay? Now, getting back to the Holocaust, okay? I'm going to give you 10 of them. And I want to tell you that the 11th one, believe it or not, when you Google the top 10 or you try to gather them, it doesn't even show. We'll get to it. Armenian genocide. Okay, let's start with that one. That was the Ottoman Empire. And there was about 1 to 1.5 million Armenians that died, right? The context is that they were ordered by the Young Turk government during World War I. Mass deportations, death marches into the Syrian desert, starvation, and mass killings. And you are telling me that us as Africans, we don't know this part of this history, right? But we know the German Holocaust. Why? Because they're the chosen people. You would think that this one would also appear as a Holocaust. No, it does not. It sure does not, right? Rwanda, about 800,000 people, mostly Tutsi and Hutu. Organized mass killing over a 100-day period, machetes, guns, militia, and the ethnic tensions fueled by colonial era divisions and political extremism. Okay? But still, this is nothing compared to what happened in Germany, right? In World War II. Yeah. Cambodia too. Is it not wild that us people who've been to school, doesn't matter high school or whatever, we don't learn this stuff? But guess what you know? You know the World War II, right? This is Cambodia genocide. About 1.7 to 2 million people. Forced labor, starvation, executions under the Khmer Rouge. And the context of it is that radical attempt to create an agrarian communist society under Pol Pot. Hey, that's Cambodian history. Okay, I'm going to run out of time, so I'm not going to explain all of them, okay? Here's another one. Bosnia genocide. Over 100,000 deaths. Yes, we know this one here. Darfur, that's Sudan. My bad. Sudan had about approximately estimated to about 200 and 300,000 deaths. The sixth one is indigenous genocides in the Americas. Okay, these were tens of millions from disease, violence, and displacement. European expansion after 1492 includes events like the Trail of Tears. Debate exists over how much qualifies strictly as genocide versus demographic collapse, but many scholars include intentional destruction policies. 10 millions of people, and it's not a Holocaust, right? They're still discussing it, okay? This one is in Ukraine, 3 to 5 million people. And here's one that a lot of people don't know. Do you guys know that before the Holocaust in Germany, it started here? Do you guys know that all the concentration camps, the abuse of human bodies, it started in Namibia? Do you know that they don't even feature in the Holocaust? It's like it doesn't exist. These were the people they tested out the Holocaust. Number 9, Bangladesh. Go ahead and read that. And this one here, Assyrian genocide. This is the Ottoman Empire, targeting of Christian minorities. This is what I was talking about when I asked Google to list them up for me. They left this one out. Again, intentionally leaving Congo out. King Leopold, the one who murdered, I think it was by what, 20, 50 million? Like a ridiculous amount of number. They still don't even see Congo as a Holocaust. Now let's get back to no one is above the law. Yes, people are above the law. And our biggest problem as Black people is that we demand so much perfection from other Black people. Yet the other side, they will pick anybody as long as they get what they want.
The amount of hate that this man received, you'd swear that he's Hendrik Verwoerd or Eugene Terblanche or Dr. Death. And the hate is from Africans, right? Because whatever happened to just disliking a person? Tell me why there are hundreds and thousands of African people in every single comment section of every single social media, where they are wishing this man the worst of things to happen to this man, his family, his children, his business, his political party. The witchcraft, the literal witchcraft, I'm saying it's witchcraft because somebody's father has sat and typed the worst things known to mankind in comment section that should happen to Julius Malema. Can you just not just dislike a person? I mean, just dislike him and move on. And I feel like his only crime is protecting Africans from other Africans. That is literally his only crime, because all of the other things have not been proven. There have been many, many allegations in Parliament, in the courts, and in the media, Daily Maverick, and everything. But they couldn't substantiate anything about him, his businesses, his wife, his political party, even what is that? The bank, VBS. They've tried many times, but they yet to prove that he's directly involved in the VBS saga. They've done everything they can. And I wished I would have heard by now African people would make the correlation between him as an African advocating for Africans to Europeans hating him and not just jump on the bandwagon. But anyway, who am I talking to? We are ushering in colonialism 2.0 that we're bringing back ourselves. Who am I talking to?
This Julius Malema situation exposes a lot. Let me tell you about an uncomfortable paradox. You see, Julius Malema has been sentenced to 5 years in prison. And as you know, I'm not a Malema fan, but we need to talk about this. We need to expose this. And the organization that made sure that justice was served was AfriForum. And before we go further, let me tell you something. George Orwell said, if people cannot think well, others will do their thinking for them. Because what I'm about to say requires you to think, not react, but think. Here's my question. Where is AfriForum on the corruption that has destroyed this country? Where were they when global banks manipulated the rand, stealing the value from every single South African, including white South Africans? Where were they when Transnet and Nedbank settled for 600 million after extracting over 2.7 billion from the state? Where was the outrage from AfriForum? Where were they when KPMG signed off on VBS's fake books, helped move money to Dubai, and produced a plagiarized rogue unit report that damaged SARS for years? Where were they? They were silent. They were quiet, and nothing came from AfriForum during that time. But when it comes to the so-called white genocide, they flew to America, they met with Trump's officials, they pushed a narrative that white farmers are being slaughtered, despite farm murders making up just 0.2% of all murders in South Africa. Where were they? Why didn't they go to America and report the fact that women are going through a lot within South Africa? No, instead, they just complain about a non-existent white genocide. AfriForum now claims they never pushed the term genocide, but Ernst Rhodes, or whatever his name is, toured Washington and Canberra with a dossier of farm murder stories, selling the fable, and he left satisfied when Trump threatened sanctions, visa bans, and AGOA suspensions. You cannot fly to America, paint South Africa as a killing field, and then pretend you didn't know what would happen. The sanctions didn't just hurt politicians, they hurt the poor, the very same people you claim to stand for, AfriForum. Delayed police salaries, cancelled overtime, more violence in the townships. You understand me? Steve Biko once said, and I always repeat this, the most potent weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. AfriForum has convinced many South Africans that the biggest threat to white people is black violence. Meanwhile, the real threat is the looting of our economy by corporations and cartels. It happens right in front of us. I'm not saying we should not call out the small fish, the politicians who are also looting. But where are they when these large corporations are looting as well, manipulating the rand? They have trained us to look at each other instead of looking up at these large corporations. And let's not pretend AfriForum exists alone. The DA and the Freedom Front Plus are the political wings of the same project. When a black person is accused of something, even when it's not true, they are the first to cry out, front page, and it's instant. But where are they?
Democrats have spoken very well about why we're here today and why the workers' movement internationally must join forces to defend Julius Malema, a fighter against imperialism. Let's be very, very clear. South Africa's so-called government of national unity threatens to lock him up, not because of any particular act he did at a rally, which hurt nobody. It is because the EFF, his party, stands for things like seizing the land, seizing the banks, seizing industry, demands that are in the interests of the black masses of South Africa. That's why they're going after him. Now, look, it will take massive class struggle to fight to achieve those demands. And the first step in doing that is the united defense of Julius Malema, to defend fighters under attack who stand for those things, despite political differences. That's what united front defense means. And that is the way that the masses in South Africa can start to fight back against this GNU government, but especially to fight back against American imperialism. Because as Comrade Kate made very clear in introducing this demonstration, that is who is calling the shots. A number of comrades spoke about how Trump, really just played with Cyril Ramaphosa in the White House a couple years ago and treated him like dirt. But Trump made very clear that Julius Malema was his #1 target. Okay? And why was that? It's because of what he stood for. And what is the GNU? But simply a slave to Trump's demands. I got to put in an extra word here about Cuba. The ANC and the South African Communist Party, which is part of this government, every year they have rallies celebrating like the victory at Quito Carnavale, right? Angola in 1988, which led directly, actually, to the final crisis of the apartheid government in South Africa. But here they are, serving their slave master, Trump, who's trying to strangle the Cuban Revolution to death. So, look, this is the thing about the South African working class, why this is so important. So Trump wants to dictate policy. That includes these tariffs that are threatening hundreds of thousands of steel workers and auto workers' jobs, right? So when they go after Malema, it's in the immediate interest of the trade unions to join in defense of Malema. And it also shows why the class struggle in South Africa cannot move forward unless it sees the fight against imperialism as essential to its cause. To defend Julius Malema, it's a need to resist and defeat imperialism. And socialists here have to fight for a new working class leadership that can tie these struggles together into one giant fist, a power that can smash the City of London bosses and its oppression of people from South Asia to South Africa to Ireland and to Britain itself. So we say, defend Malema, join the fight, workers of the world, unite.
I was convinced that I was not going to vote for the EFF, not this time around, right? But something about this case that's going on right now reminded me of the real reason why they want to bring this brother down. It reminded me what this guy stands for. I don't want to lie, I'm so grateful for this case because it really woke the black consciousness in me. And it really reminded me why the EFF and people like Julius Malema are so necessary. Because we all know it has nothing to do with the shooting of the gun or anything like that, but it has everything to do with a black child that is not afraid of whiteness. That's his only crime.
The juju sentencing for me was more about grasping at low-hanging fruit. It was more about it being a spectacle, proving a point, and it felt very distant from justice. But I can see in the comment sections, white people are very excited. They feel vindicated by this sentencing because of the statement Ujuju made when he said, "Unalive the Boer, unalive the farmer," or "Unalive the farmer and unalive the Boer." And what's interesting is, number one, white people always want us to get into the morality of things when it comes to pointing out the corruption and violence of black leadership. They always want us to go to town with that. They always want us to double down on that. But never do they come at us with that same energy when it comes to the corruption and violence of white leadership. And that's why I don't get into those conversations with them. But it's also important for us to remember that this statement of Juju never led to the mass murders of white people, not on the continent or in Europe. It also never led to a system being created to oppress white people, not in Europe and not on the continent. It's also interesting because the last time Julius Malema was cited as saying the statement was in 2023. It's 2026 now. Why can't you guys move on? Why can't you guys forget the past? Why are you guys so hung up on the past? Why don't you want to focus on building a rainbow nation now in 2026 and let go of the past? Why can't you guys do that? Maybe it's because you understand that the past affects the present, even though his statement that he made in the past doesn't affect your present. Didn't even affect you back then. Nothing about that statement has affected you. Just like nothing about these gunshots have affected South Africans. Truly speaking. Now, what is interesting is that you will keep on repeating this statement and keep on talking about how it incited this and how it incited that, but you get upset at black South Africans when they bring up apartheid. An entire system of oppression towards black people. A system of oppression that still affects us today. The hate speech said in apartheid translated to mass murders of black people. You can't understand why we bring up that past, but you can understand why you bring up this past which doesn't even affect you. One statement, nohal. Such exaggeration, Mara. Ooh. And truly speaking, guys, I don't get involved in rallies or petitions that are organized by white people in terms of them coming up against the criminality of black leadership, because most of those rallies and petitions actually have nothing to do with the majority, which is the skin color. Most of those petitions and rallies and movements, as scarce as they are, have to do with ensuring that white people are comfortable and the needs of white people are attended to, not the needs of the majority.
They sentenced Julian Malema to 5 years in prison yesterday, and the organization that brought the charges was AfriForum. Now let me tell you who AfriForum really is. AfriForum is an organization made up primarily of Afrikaners. They are the descendants of Dutch, French, and German colonizers who invaded South Africa centuries ago. They built their wealth on stolen land, stolen labor, and then they formalized that theft into a system that the world came to know as apartheid. Now they call themselves a civil rights organization. But AfriForum's real purpose is to protect the economic inequality that made South Africa so appealing to European colonizers in the first place. 7% of the population controlling 73% of the land. That is not a community under threat. That is apartheid's blueprint, still running. And when democracy at home refused to protect it, well, they flew to Washington, walked into the White House, and they found a friend who shared their politics. And they asked a foreign government to do what the South African people wouldn't. That friend was Donald Trump. AfriForum lobbied the Trump administration hard. They pushed the lie that white South Africans were victims of genocide. And that lie was enough. Trump cut all aid to South Africa. More than 8,000 healthcare workers lost their jobs overnight. Without those programs, Over 600,000 HIV-related deaths could follow in the next decades. Those aren't white farmers being persecuted. Those are Black South Africans dying because a minority lobby group decided that maintaining their wealth and land mattered more than the lives of the people around them. And standing in the Oval Office beside Trump when he ambushed President Ramaphosa on camera was Elon Musk, born and raised under apartheid, who poured hundreds of millions of dollars into putting Trump back in power. That's not a coincidence. This is coordination. A white minority that lost political control through democracy, using American power to punish an entire nation into submission. The original inhabitants of that land are still waiting for justice. And AfriForum's answer to that wait is to go around the will of the South African people entirely. African Americans understand this clearly. The same ideology gutting programs for Black South Africans is gutting programs for us. The same machine and the same money. It's the same contempt for Black life dressed up in the language of law and order. From Johannesburg to Chi-Town, from Soweto to Harlem, our struggles have always been connected, and we can't afford to look away. Because what's happening to our people in South Africa is just a preview of what happens when we stay silent everywhere. And if you didn't know, now you know.
Julius Malema is a South African politician. He is the founder and the leader of EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters. His politics are focused on the land and the wealth of South Africa. Yesterday, 16th of April 2026, he was sentenced by Magistrate Toinette Olivier to 5 years in prison under the Firearms Control Act. Malema intends to appeal this sentence, but the conviction stands. This appeal is important, not because Malema is afraid of going to jail, but because in South Africa you can be disqualified from Parliament if you have a sentence that's over 12 months without the option of a fine. And I think that's the point. Firstly, let's address what he was actually charged for and who charged him. On the 28th of July 2018, EFF held a rally, during which Malema fired a rifle into the air. 28, 29, 30, 31, 1. On the 1st of August, AfriForum made a public statement. They have laid charges against Malema at the Littleton police station. The police did not initiate this investigation. AfriForum did it themselves. They wrote the charge sheet and then they handed it into a police station that is hundreds of kilometres away from where this incident had happened. The police processed the paperwork and then handed it up, and it disappeared into the NPA for over a year. NPA is National Prosecution Authority. During that time, NPA gave contradictory public statements. One spokesperson said a decision had been taken not to prosecute, and another spokesperson said that no decision had been taken at all. Those statements were made on the same day. When AfriForum caught wind that the NPA might not prosecute or were sitting on the file, they threatened a mandamus. A mandamus is a court order that compels a public body to perform a legal duty that it has failed to perform. The NPA had a legal obligation to make a decision on prosecution, yes or no. You can't just sit on it. And in July 2019, AfriForum announced publicly that it would go to court and force the NPA to make a decision. In that same announcement, AfriForum stated that if the NPA decided not to prosecute, it would apply for a nulle prosequi. Nulle prosequi is Latin, and behind me you can see how it got to South Africa from Rome. Hello darkness, my old friend. A nulle prosequi certificate in South African law lets a private person prosecute a case if the state declines to prosecute. By October 2019, AfriForum had formally served the mandamus on the NPA and the Minister for Justice. It also put out another public statement saying that it had successfully pressured the NPA into prosecuting Malema. Just to be explicitly clear, nobody was injured at this rally. Shots were fired into the sky. I'm also not condoning gun violence or gun ownership or shooting rifles into the sky. You could hit a bird for fuck's sake. But whose job is it to prosecute? If the NPA had received the police report and investigated themselves and come to a conclusion, I would not be reporting on this story. But AfriForum are not the police. They are his political rival. They are an Afrikaner lobby group. They don't care if he shoots a bird. They are excited they finally found an excuse to go after their political enemy. And they lobbied and pressured and threatened South Africa's actual police force until they got what they wanted. AfriForum was founded in 2006 by members of Solidarity, the Afrikaner trade union. They describe themselves as a civil rights organisation. But Solidarity started in 1902 as a white miners' union. They spent most of the 20th century backing apartheid. Solidarity is not just a union and a lobby group. They have built what they call the Solidarity Movement. They have built a family of interlocking institutions across South Africa. This includes Afrikaans schools and colleges, a cultural federation, a media house, a film company, a legal fund, property companies and financial services. They say that they represent 2 million people. They say that they defend minority rights, community safety and Afrikaans culture. But what they do and what they say are not the same. What they actually do is spend a lot of money fighting against land redistribution and place name changes. They also produce a lot of very smart-sounding propaganda that warns that prosecuting apartheid crimes would cause polarisation, as if South Africa is not already polarised. Now the money. They insist that they are funded exclusively by their members. They boast membership over 300,000, paying 30 rand a month. But they don't just stop with local money. They also run Friends of AfriForum. This is a dedicated donation channel for international supporters. We don't know who those international supporters are or why they might be supporting AfriForum specifically. They don't publish that. But their international political operation also appears on records as recurring travel and lobby efforts. This is Martin Callie Creel, and he is the CEO of AfriForum. This is Ernst Roots, and he is the Deputy CEO of AfriForum. In 2018, they flew to Washington with the stated purpose of warning US investors against land grabs. So, saying the quiet part out loud here, who are the investors? Who are the American investors in South Africa that need to be warned against land expropriation? While in Washington, these men got personal time with the United States National Security Advisor. Why? They also met Ted Cruz, and they went on Fox News and called for American support against brutal farm murderers. But most troublingly, they visited the Cato Institute. The Cato Institute was set up by Charles Koch, the oil billionaire, one of the richest men in America, arguably the most destructive human being who has ever lived. Cato's core argument, which it dresses up very well in academic language, is that private property is sacred. This think tank has been at the heart of a decades-long project to make corporate property rights untouchable. This is the network that has spent the last 40 years funding climate denial and arguing that private profiteering should never be disturbed for the public good. They believe that even if your fortune came from extraction, from colonialism, from addiction economics, or from government contracts, that your right to own that resource is permanent and indefinite and unchallengeable. And any attempt to nationalise, to socialise, to redistribute, or to tax is seen by them as theft of their private property that they earned by inheriting it. They believe whoever holds the deed holds the deed. Don't ask about the history of how I got the deed. This is mine. I am entitled to be worth hundreds of billions of dollars and never give anything back. That's who AfriForum went to warn of land grabs. Let's talk about those land grabs. This is the land audit report done by the South African government. White South Africans make up 7% of the population, but they own 72% of the farm and agricultural holdings. And individual males own 72%, while females only own 13%. So if you're a black woman in South Africa, this system is not for you. But these guys are oppressed. When they go on Fox News to generate fear across the diaspora, that is not the violent dispossession that they want you to think it is. This was signed into law in January 2025 after 5 years of public consultation and parliamentary deliberation. It is the product of the democratic process. It went through multiple drafts and it was badly needed. Until this was passed last year, South Africa was still using apartheid-era land laws. The legal framework that this replaced was written by the apartheid regime. This gives the South African government a framework to acquire land for public purposes. It requires the state to negotiate with landowners, provide a legitimate public purpose, and pay just and equitable compensation. It is also only applicable to very specific circumstances. Abandoned land, speculative land, land already paid for by the state. The courts decide case by case what compensation is owed to landowners. And as of yet, it has never been used. Not once. I'm running out of time. If you want access to the research materials that sits behind this video and the rest of the series, please make sure that you are in the Discord and that you have the South Africa tab.
People think I'm happy. I'm not happy with Malema going to jail. I'm being honest with you. I don't want people to go to jail because I know that place. I want people to change their ways, so I'm going to pray for Malema. Ek het met myself gepraat en sê, Here, laat ek nie bly raak vir die man nie. Ek verheerlik my nie in mense se moeilikheid nie. Now some of you, if a PA is in trouble or PA has done that, you get happy. What type of person are you? Ek het kinders, man. Ek het children. Tomorrow my children will be in trouble with the same things I laugh at other people about. No, but Malema called me a bandit every day. It's okay. It's on him. But for me, I'm going to pray for him. I'm going to pray for his kids. I'm going to pray for his wife. Because prison is very hard on families, let me tell you. So to all of you tonight, verander bietjie julle harte vir mekaar. Wees net so lief vir die ander patriotte soos julle vir my is. Die Here kyk nie wat het jy nie. Die Here kyk jou hart. Every day Malema would call me in parliament, you bandit. You bandit. I have kids. My kids watch TV. My kids see the hero being called and humiliated there. But I'd never want to be that person. I never want to be the person that rejoices in the pain of others. Because die Here slaap nie, die Here slymer nie. The Lord doesn't look at your cars, your status. The Lord looks at your heart. I know trouble. I know trouble. And I'm going to tell you, when people are in trouble, I never get happy. What he said about me, that's on him. But I don't become the type of person that people are towards me. People lie every day about me. People lie about me. People have stories about me. People forget I have kids. Yes, they have kids. We must learn to love each other, patriots. Even if you see some in the PA, I look at them. But you see, you must understand, we've done many elections and we've learned. And we've become better. The newspapers called me more than anybody today. They thought I'm going to gloat when it comes to Malema. All I said is I'm going to pray for him. I think about his family.
Has South Africa created its next president by trying to silence him? Because when you look at history, there's a pattern that keeps repeating, and it rarely goes the way the powerful expect. My name is Noreen, and this is Real Africa Stories. Julius Malema has been sentenced to 5 years in prison, although he's been released pending appeal. And I keep coming back to this question. What if this doesn't weaken him? What if this is the moment that actually strengthens him? Because across Africa, we've seen this before. The state punishes the man, and the people turn him into something bigger. For example, Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison. That was meant to silence him. Instead, it made him a global symbol. Again, another example, Kwame Nkrumah, imprisoned by colonial authorities. They thought removing him would weaken the movement. The people elected him anyway. Another example, Jomo Kenyatta, detained, labeled dangerous, removed from public life. He later became president of Kenya. Another one, Patrice Lumumba, arrested, then killed. They removed the man, but created a symbol that still lives on across Africa today. Different countries, different times, but the same pattern. Remove the individual, and sometimes you multiply the idea. And this is where Julius Malema becomes uncomfortable for a lot of people, especially elites, not just because of what he says, but because he says out loud what many people are already thinking and feeling. He reminds people of something that hasn't gone away: inequality, land, economic power, who has it and who doesn't. And when you look at South Africa today, that discomfort makes sense. For example, the richest man in South Africa is Johann Rupert, a white South African, decades after apartheid officially ended. Now, this isn't about one individual. It's about what that represents. Because for many people, it raises a question they don't always say out loud. What really changed and what didn't? And Malema keeps bringing people back to that question again and again. So when something like this happens, something shifts. The story changes. Now it's no longer just, do I agree with Julius Malema? It becomes, why does the system need him out of the way? And that question is powerful. Because once people start to feel that someone is being targeted, whether that perception is right or wrong, their support can deepen, their loyalty can harden, their message can spread further. We're even seeing this in more recent times. For example, Bobi Wine in Uganda. Repeat arrests didn't silence him. They made him more visible, more recognized, more difficult to ignore. And this is why prison is complicated in politics. It can remove someone from the stage, but it can also move them into history. And once someone enters that space, they don't just belong to the present anymore. They belong to the people. Now, I'm not saying every leader who goes to prison becomes powerful. That's not true. But when a leader already carries emotion, already has a following, already represents something deeper, punishment doesn't always break that. Sometimes it strengthens it. So the real question isn't just about the sentence. It's about what happens next. Does this weaken Julius Malema? Or does it reinforce the idea that he's a threat to the systems he speaks against? Because if his supporters start to see this as confirmation, then this moment doesn't close his story. It expands it. So I'll leave you with this. When you look at history, when leaders are removed, imprisoned, or silenced, does that usually end their influence? Or does it mark the beginning of something bigger. And if that pattern holds true, what could this moment mean for Julius Malema? This is the Africa you're not shown, but I'm here to show you.
Julius Malema of South Africa was not just sentenced because of what he's convicted of. Julius Malema is being sentenced because he's being silenced for very one good reason. It's because he's trying to demolish the white structure, the apartheid structure that has still been in existence in South Africa for all those years. It's because Julius Malema has been trying to, to bring equity among people in South Africa, that is between the whites and the blacks. Julius Malema has been calling for land to be returned back to the black South Africans without compensation. So Julius Malema has been a threat to the, not just, I can't call them cartel, but to the deep states of South Africa. And this raises a very critical question. Who runs South Africa? The presidency and the ANC you see in South Africa is just a symbol. These are just structures that are there. But who controls South Africa? It's the deep states. And who are the deep states? Well, you can guess. So South Africa, as it stands, is a country, yes, with the majority blacks. But if you look at the equality, of course, when you look at in terms of wealth, possession, in terms of education, health, among the whites and the blacks, there's a lot of disparity, which is quite true. In terms of even jobs, most South Africans have no land. A larger percentage, more than 50% of South Africa's land is in the hands of the minority whites. I'm not making this up. This is a fact. So Julius Malema is being silenced because he's been that voice that has been speaking on behalf of the poor South African, poor black man in South Africa. And the poor black man in South Africa.
All right. After careful consideration, and I can show you I have done
only
so,
one man who speaks for
free
them,
of any interference, this judgment or sentence of this court and this court
simply
alone
means that the
in
noises,
respect of count
go
one,
look at this group
you are
called
sentenced to a
AfriForum.
period of 5 years
Because
imprisonment.
AfriForum is this
In
group
respect
that,
of count two,
portrays
you are
itself
sentenced
as
to
an
a period
activist
of
group
2
or
years
like a
imprisonment.
rights group.
In
Of
respect
course,
of
it's made
count
up
3,
of the
you are sentenced to 20,000
old
rand
apartheid guys who
or
are
to
still there. Of
undergo
course,
6 months
they claim
imprisonment.
they're
In
fighting
respect
for a
of
few
count
things in South
4, you
Africa.
are sentenced
But
to
AfriForum has,
20,000
for the
rand or
longest
to
time,
undergo 6
been
months
looking for
imprisonment.
ways to jail
In respect of count 5, you are
Julius
sentenced
Malema
to pay an amount,
because of
a
his
fine of
utterances. Because at one
20,000
point they
rand
even claim
or to
that,
undergo 6 months imprisonment.
Julius Malema was
In terms of
pushing
section
for,
280, subsection 2 of Act 51 of
the whites in
1977,
South Africa by that
the
song,
court orders that the
unalive
sentence
the Boers, because Boers
imposed in
are
respect of
Afrikaners in
counts
South
2,
Africa.
3,
Of
4,
course, they're
and
not
5
encouraging that. But
run
at this
concurrent
stage,
with the
you find that
sentence
Julius Malema was
imposed
a man
in
who had
respect of
really,
count 1.
step on a few shoes,
You
a
may
few
be
feet. And there's someone who was a wanted man in courts, of course. And of course, they've gotten him. So maybe Julius Malema can appeal for this ruling. Can go to the Supreme Court, of course, even the High Court. And let's see, it can take 10, 5, 8. Even the whole case took like 7 years before we got a ruling. So it can take many years. But still, it can still vibe. But if the Supreme Court or the High Court validates this, it's done for Malema politically. So again, South Africa is a country that really surprised us a lot, still, because even as we speak on Thursday, in fact, this week, this mid-month of April, 3 things happened in South Africa. There was a nomination of a new U.S. ambassador to the U.S. Of course, not ambassador, but South Africa ambassador to the United States was appointed. And there was someone who was championing the truce or the unity between, of course, when the apartheid system, the regime was getting out. So these are people who are negotiating for South Africa. Of course, he's white. So he's appointed as ambassador to the United States. And then there is the second thing that happened again. This is today, Malema's conviction and sentencing, not just conviction, but sentencing. And then, of course, We're also talking about the arrest of Kemi Seba, who is another Pan-Africanist who was arrested on Thursday in South Africa, Pretoria. So Kemi Seba is one of these Beninese outspoken activists. He's been anti-French, of course, against colonial kind of like all the things that happen. Of course, he's against the government that are being supported by France, and he's been quite outspoken about it. And of course, he's a wanted man in France, and he's also a wanted man again also in Benin with the government, the outgoing government of Patrice Talon, that actually wanted him, was a wanted man because again he's being accused of orchestrating an uprising of like a catalyzer. So it's something that we are still waiting to see how South Africa is going to evolve over time.
While majority of you are sitting and talking nonsense about Julius Malema this or that, Julius Malema's name is going to be recorded in the book of history. As young as he is, he has already done what majority of us would never dream to ever even, or dare even to start. Julius Malema's name is going to be mentioned with Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Colonel Gaddafi. That's the name of Julius Malema. He has never led this country, or he hasn't led this country as a president, but his name is recorded in the history with such great leaders. He will be spoken in the same light as Fidel Castro of Cuba. He will be spoken like Yasser Arafat of Palestine. They have never became Yasser Arafat never became the president of Palestine. But even today, when you speak of Palestine, you remember Yasser Arafat. That's the name of Julius Malema. Whether he becomes the president of South Africa or not, he will be remembered as one of those African leaders which history will remember with. He will be remembered with the greatness. Whatever you think about him is going to be remembered is amongst the very few people that are in those ranks of Fidel Castro's, the Kwame Nkrumah of this world, the Patrice Lumumba of this world, the Mandela of this world, the Peter Mukabas of this world, the Chris Hannis of this world. They have never became president of countries, but they are highly spoken of. That's Julius Malema. Whether you like it or not, Julius Malema is going to be spoken in that light. Does he not have the poso chahai, faults chahai? He has faults, like any other person. But he's one such great leader that whether we like it or not, is going to be remembered in that light with the great leaders of African continent and the diaspora. I just wanted to register that. We can speak about all this, we can speak about all this, Hemen Mashaba, whatever. When it comes to real politics, when it comes to a man that speak politics, a man that act politics, that's Julius Malema. A true revolutionary. A true revolutionary does not mean that he cannot stay in wherever he stays. He can't do what he can't do certain that he's doing, can't run business. But compared to his peers and the current leaders of different political parties, Julius is way above their level. He is a true That's why I've said he's above their level. Julius Malema is something else. It's a cut of a different cloth. One day, history will remember him favorably.
What's good, beautiful people? Let's talk about what's trending on Trending with Stay today. So Julius Malema has been the trending topic this whole entire week regarding his 5-year imprisonment sentence, as well as the fine that he received from the judge. Regarding his case, this case where he discharged a gun in public. So yeah, I think for most part, the comment section somehow, I know AfriForum's target or point here was to get him out of parliament, like I said, was to get him out of parliament and hopefully get him out of politics for a little bit to buy themselves time in whatever it is that they're trying to buy themselves time in. However, it backfired because in the comment section, for most part, a lot of people, a lot of black people have somehow united to support Julius Malema. So this is a win for him. This is just in my personal opinion and my observation. A lot of people are saying, like, you know what, I'm not a big fan of Julius Malema, but in this case, I support him, So instead of, the world going against Julius Malema and, trying to advocate for punishment, a lot of people felt like, well, the punishment does not fit the crime, so therefore they united with Julius Malema in this particular case. Another thing that people were also talking about was the fact that him and his wife are back together and, back together. And, they seem extra lovey-dovey and whatever not. But, for most part, a stable family, right, or a united family gives us, the followers and the supporters, a sense of, stability, if it makes sense. So it gives us stability of the person that we want to entrust as a leader. It also gives us a sense that he is a responsible man, so therefore we can entrust him with our votes. Obviously, Mantua has to, stand by her man during this time, irrespective of whether the rumors of cheating and the allegations of cheating were true or not. She has to stand by him in this time. And one of the things that I personally love about Julius Malema is the fact that he seems like a very ancestral conscious and spiritual conscious man, meaning that he knows that Mantua plays a very important role in him becoming president, which, based on the fact that he has white people as his enemies, I personally feel like he's going to be president very, very soon, sooner than what we think. So she has to play that role. And no matter what, I don't think he's going to leave her or allow her to divorce or whatever the case is, because he understands that there's a deeper, situation going on than the two of them just being married for the show. She contributes to his destiny. So he understands that, and I love that about him. It shows spiritual maturity and, like I said, ancestral maturity as well. So yeah, the verdict, they're obviously taking it to High Court, so we'll just have to watch and see what happens in the final verdict, but I don't think he's going to jail. Perhaps a fine, yes, but jail, no.
Hands off Julius Malema. You touch him, you touching Africa. Look, South Africa, we're telling you. We don't mind your xenophobic stuff. We leave you alone. We don't have control over that. But that one, you leave that one. That one belongs to the rest of the African continent. You touch him, you're touching the continent. Wow, we're telling you now. Don't say we didn't tell you. Africa. I've told them when they tried it with Zuma, they bent that freaking Gauteng.
Yes, I remember.
You understand? And then they quickly let him be. The same this will be freaking worse. You better leave Julius Malema alone.
Yeah.
AfriForum, what? We don't give a crap about that. You better leave him alone. You touch him, you're touching Africa. Hey, you touch him, you're touching Africa. We're already telling you now.
Hands off.
Julius Malema. So what most people don't tell you is that this lawsuit that is brought against the EFF leader, Julius Malema, is not about the gunshot in the air that he fired. It's about power, accountability, the anger of a generation, and the future of opposition politics in South Africa. What happens next will tell us a lot about where the country is going forward, the direction. This court case, this judge, has the power to change South African politics overnight. And you ask yourself, why do thousands of people gather outside the courthouse in East London? So on January 23rd, that is today, in case you don't know. So this is news from South Africa. Thousands of people gathered outside the courthouse. They weren't there for any ordinary criminal case. They were there for Julius Malema, one of South Africa's most controversial and influential opposition politicians. One that spreads hate and really routes up large crowds to go and, commit acts of violence against white minorities. Now, supporters waved flags, sang struggle songs, and waited anxiously as the leader of the economic freedom fighter of EFF awaits sentencing in a case that has followed him for years. Now, really, this is not what people really wanted him to go in front of the court for, because he was the one that actually chanted and chants that one farmer, one bullet, meaning kill the farmers all. And this is part of the persecution that the white minorities suffer under. So there's a lot more to this case than just what's in this court case. So this wasn't just about one man. The moment could shape the future of the political movement. So what is this case about? The case dates back to 2018 during a political rally. At that event, Julius Malema was filmed firing into the air with a gun. South African law strictly regulates firearms, especially public use. Authorities charge Malema for discharging a weapon in a public place. The case has moved slowly through the legal system, with appeals and delays going on forever, hoping that sometime some judge will just let it lay. However, now years later, the court is deciding to sentence. And here is why it matters. If Julius Malema receives a prison sentence longer than 12 months, and that sentence is confirmed through all appeals, South African law could automatically disqualify him from serving in Parliament. That wouldn't just affect Julius Malema personally, it would deal a major blow to the Economic Freedom Party that relies heavily on his leadership, visibility, and rhetoric. Kill a farmer, kill a boer, one farmer, one bullet. In South Africa's political system, leaders matter, and Malema is the face of the EFF. So you ask yourself, who will support a person like him? The EFF draws strong support from young Black South Africans, particularly those who feel excluded from economic opportunity decades after the end of apartheid. Apartheid has been over 31 years ago. So, if young people still, the blacks still suffer from that, they put the blame at the wrong place. Put the blame at Julius Malema. Put the blame at the ANC party. Many of his supporters believe racial inequality still defines access to land, wealth, and jobs, and that's why they vote in for land grabbing, stealing from the white minorities. Government reforms have been too slow in their opinion. And there's 142 discriminatory laws. Traditional parties have failed to deliver real economic change, is what they believe. They believe it will come through force and violence and killing. and persecution of white minorities. For these supporters, Malema represents defiance, confrontation, and urgency. To them, this court feels like justice and more like political pressure. Now, many feel that no politician should be above the law. Public firearms use sets a dangerous example. Leadership requires restraint, not rhetorics and murderous chants. That is a disgrace. Well, so we wait for the sentencing, and probably it's not going to be 15 years or years in a high security facility. And you can bet that Julius Malema will go ahead and appeal it again, and appeal it again. So he may get house arrest, but we see even if he get 12 months, that would already, be a change in the political phase in South Africa. So that is the case that we all are waiting to hear about. So let's just be clear that conviction status, Malema, the court did not issue a final sentence today on January 23, as the matter was postponed for further arguments regarding sentencing, with reports indicating a focus on pre-sentencing report. Social workers suggested that there should be no jail time. Malema faces a potential 15 years in jail. However, his co-accused, Adrian Snyman, was found not guilty. So that says a lot. So the two claims against Malema was guilty of illegal firearm discharge. So it was based on circumstantial evidence. There were 19 people that were witnesses speaking for the state in this case, and the judge took 3 days before she delivered the sentencing. Now, it's going to be appealed to a higher court where two judges can make a different decision on circumstantial evidence. So nobody knows what the final outcome will be. So that is, in just a short note, what happened to the case on Julius Malema today. And so it will be appealed, and who knows what will happen next. That's it on Julius Malema.
Wagwan, beautiful and amazing people. So guys, in today's video we are going to discuss something very important, and that is in regards to Julius Malema's sentence. I don't know, would you consider it Julius Malema is a hero or a reckless leader? So Africans are talking, or rather Africa is talking, and it's very loud. People are talking on social media. From the clips that we just played, you'll notice that they are all about Julius Malema, and that is from Johannesburg to Nairobi to Lagos to Ghana to America to Germany. All of these people are speaking. The social media is on fire, and that is because of South African opposition leader Julius Malema, who was sentenced to 5 years in prison. But here is the twist: he is actually not behind bars yet, by the way. So what exactly happened, and why do you think that Africans are divided? Because some are supporting, some are not supporting whatever he has been charged with or for. So Julius Malema, as we all know, is the leader of Economic Freedom Fighter Party, who was sentenced for illegally firing a rifle during a political rally back in the year 2018. So guys, we are talking about a case that happened in 2018, and this firing happened like he fired on the air and not at anybody. Anyway, guys, the the conviction of Julius Malema has happened multiple times and on multiple charges, and that includes firearm possession, reckless endangerment. Prosecutors initially wanted him to serve 15 years in jail, but the court has settled on a 5-year term in prison. But the key aspects that we're going to talk about here is the fact that he appealed the sentence, and that means he is free for now. And of course, later on, we will get to be updated about everything. We don't know if he's going to lose his seat in parliament completely or partially, or we don't know, because if you are sentenced, if you are in prison for a number of, it depends on the country's rule, law, and everything. So for Julius Malema, if he goes to the prison, I mean, you cannot serve a public office if you are jailed. So according to some South Africans, or a large number of South Africans, they believe that Julius Malema is being silenced. That is their belief. And if you actually follow up on this video, you'll notice that people believe that he's being targeted. I mean, people are saying that you can never jail a voice of the people, and you can see them saying that Malema represents economic freedom and land reforms on behalf of South Africans. When he comes out and speaks, he's speaking on behalf of South Africans. He's speaking for frustrated African youth. And of course, the case, according to these South Africans, this case is being used to weaken radical African movements, to weaken people that are opening the minds of other African people. So of course, we have those who will compare him to historic African revolutionaries like Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba. And of course, guys, we don't know, did he do all these things, or is he just facing some consequences that we don't know? And then we have these other people that believe that, Julius Malema is playing a victim narrative, and that he broke the law, and that is simple and clear. There is nothing that you can come out and tell us here. And of course, they believe that, leaders should always lead by example, not what Julius Malema did. And of course, they also believe that it is very, very wrong as a leader to fire a gun in public and call it politics, or whatever you want to call it. So even the prosecutors, if you followed the case like very, very well, they focused and emphasized that, you see, leaders must be held accountable, because, young leaders, young people, they look up to them. So they are saying that, if you see like a category of people that believe that, they should always be accountable, they should lead by example. For them, they see like the South African law as one. So in East Africa, there is a similar perspective about all these issues. That is in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. For most East Africans, they believe that African leaders always claim political prosecution when in trouble. And with this, we have seen this several times. But on this, we can't really say that, Julius Malema is claiming political prosecution based on political matters. So I saw some people comparing Malema's situation to these local situations that have happened in their country, but I don't know. What do you think about that, guys? And then also, we have seen people that are saying that, Julius Malema is a martyr in the making, and they believe that this could actually boost his popularity, and they believe that in the next coming few years, he will actually get sympathy votes, because he's fighting for people, he's being imprisoned for it. And anyway, legal problems can sometimes turn leaders into symbols of resistance and get the love and loyalty from some of the South African and African leaders. We've seen even other people from around the world saying that you can touch people, anybody else, you can touch those that are doing ABCs in South Africa, but Julius Malema remains to be ours, whether in South Africa or not. So don't dare touch Julius Malema. And of course, if you look at Julius Malema himself, he's leaning into the narrative, saying that, they are imprisoning him, but they're not imprisoning his ideas. So I don't know what you think about that. So we've actually noticed a couple of hundreds here and there, tensions here and there, and we have Julius Malema supporters, like loyal supporters, who have already gathered in large numbers, and of course there is some fear that protests could escalate in South Africa and even around the world. You see that clip of this guy in Britain protesting against the unlawful arrest and imprisonment of Julius Malema. Okay, there is also fear that there could be political tensions, or these political tensions could rise, and the situation could become worse or unstable. So I don't know what you think about that, but anyway, guys, I don't know, is Julius Malema a dangerous populist or a necessary disruptor? Is this justice or politics? Anyway, thank you so much. If you watched the clip up to this point, kindly comment down below, let me know what you think about the entire situation, because your contribution matters a lot. And kindly subscribe to our amazing channel. I'll see you in the next video, same time, guys, same time. Expect a video every day. Bye bye.